All right, we go live in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Welcome to Indiana Sports Beat Radio, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Know your role and shut your mouth, you jabroni!
Fires upfield into the end zone. It is caught. Jelani Woods, touchdown! INDY!
A 43-point night for Tyrese Halliburton.
How do you like that, partner?
Galloway drives all the way to the hole, throws it up, got it! Indiana's got their first lead of this contest.
I mean, that's a goddamn Emmy winner right there.
Now, from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, here's your host, Jim Coyle.
Hello, everybody, and welcome aboard Indiana Sports Beat Radio here on this Monday. It's July 17th. Thanks a lot for being with us. We appreciate you coming to you from the studios of Eagle Point Golf Club, Eagle Point Studios, that is. On this Monday, it's Never Lose Hoop Golf Outing Week, as that will take place this Thursday. For those of you that are available to play, we'd sure like to have you. If you haven't signed up, please go to events.golfstatus.com and search for Never Lose Hoop. Get signed up for that. Of course, it supports the Halls Foundation and area kids with cancers trying to make their lives a little bit better. Indiana Sports Beat Radio, driven by Andy Moore Honda. Make sure you go to andymorehonda.com and get more to your door with Andy Moore Honda. And Endeavor Hospitality, the family of restaurants in and around the Bloomington area. Great places like BB's Market and the Chop Shop. Great new steakhouse located right next door to BB's, where you can get the best in meats, custom-made products, and everything else that you'll need for some great home meals. Appreciate you being here on the program today. Dustin Dopirak will be joining us. Keegan Nickoson, formerly of the Hoosier.com, now covering the Big 12, as he just got back from Dallas and Big 12 Media Days last week. So look forward to talking to him, see what's going on over there. Appreciate everybody on the comment board. Fred, Robbie, Ryan, Mike, Tanis, Jennifer, Fred, Philip commenting, sounds like Indiana's out of the running for Foy Badunga. Jennifer and the Dominican. Hope everyone had a great weekend, by the way. Looking forward to a good week to start things, get things going well, as usual. So I'm looking around a different background for me for the first time in a while. Looking forward to talking to Keegan. Haven't spoken to him in a minute. Well, I spoke to him, but see how things are going with him. See how things are going in the Big 12 as football's getting ramped up. Big 12 Media Days have already happened. Big 12 Media Days coming up in a couple of weeks, July 25th, 26th, not that far away, actually, less than a couple of weeks away, up at Lucas Oil Stadium in Indianapolis. Of course, we will be there for that. Dustin Shudu will be with me for both days, I believe, there. So looking forward to coming to you from there. How about those Reds, Michael? They're stinking it up, man. What are they, game back now? Lost back-to-back games to the Brewers as they opened up the second half of the season with a series at home against Milwaukee, and I think they have lost both of those. Down a game. Not what you want to see. The NBA Summer League has come to a close. Trace Jackson Davis had his one and only game, but not a bad one. He had a double-double in that game. We heard from him last week, of course. Trying to find that information on him, but the exact numbers. But a nice showing for Chase Jackson Davis, and he is, like I said, we've said all along, he's in a place where he needs to, where he's wanted, in a great situation, and getting the opportunity, finishes with a double-double in his only outing of the Summer League. of the NBA Summer League. Or he just played in 2 games, rather. My fault. He did 18 points. He was 8 of 12 from the field, 10 rebounds, 2 assists, 2 blocks for the Golden State Warriors on Saturday. He missed the first 3 games in Las Vegas and the 2 games in the California Classic due to his hamstring injury he was dealing with. But in the 2 games that he did play in, he averaged 16 points on 14 of 21 shooting from the field, which is pretty damn good. 8.5 rebounds a game. Not bad either. So he was not far off of having a double-double for both. But his passing was something that stood out, which is what they want him for. So he did a good job of making a difference when he got in, when he got the opportunity, taking advantage of that. So congratulations to him as he continues to move forward in his NBA career. How are the midsummer reports coming for football for the Big Ten? Recruiting-wise, Indiana kind of down at the bottom. 13 commitments in the class currently, ranked dead last in the conference. But the recruiting class itself is leaps and bounds ahead of where the program was at this point last year, when it only had a couple. Renewed emphasis on recruiting the Midwest appears to be paying off. 3-star defensive back Judah Jenkins, headlining the class so far, was a big June win for the Hoosiers. Tight end Brody Cosson could end up having an NFL type upside to him. Some in-state recruits and offensive linemen, Adamola Ajani and Javier Etheridge. Defensive back Christian Peterson. Indiana gets a grade of C- from Rivals. C- is not going to get it done, but that's just an opinion from there. As football keeps getting closer and closer, I know some fans don't want to think about it, but you don't have a choice. It's coming, baby. It's coming. Tournament expansion was something that came up in the NCAA meetings last week, but that's not going to be happening anytime soon in Division I men's basketball. In a statement specifically about it, the committee said that the tournament expansion was not imminent. The NCAA Division I Transformation Committee suggested in January that sports with more than 200 competitors include a postseason with 25% of the teams that compete. There are more than 350 schools competing in men's college basketball. Now, I believe that's Division I. If that was the case, you're looking at well over 75, over 80 teams that would be in the postseason. There aren't 80 teams good enough to be in the postseason. And we know that now by looking at the current number of, you want to use 68, which to me is plenty. Those last 4 teams that are getting in every year, the last 4 in, they're average at best. Average at best. And those teams have already had all season to make their case. And yet they're fighting to get in to just a 68-team field. You're going to let another 15 in? There's not 15 schools worthy. So no, it's not necessary. Why water down a great event? Do not change it. It would be utterly disappointing to see the NCAA tournament changed again. There are not, the talent is not there. So don't do it. But they thank goodness they see that on their own. The committee must be good stewards for the Division I men's basketball championship. Dave Gavitt, NCAA Senior Vice President of Basketball, said in a release, they are committed to doing their due diligence, looking at a few different models to make an informed decision that's in the best interest of the championship, and that may very well include deciding against expansion, which they did. The NCAA tournament has expanded in 2011 when the field went from 65 to 68 teams, including the first 4 in Dayton. Field also expanded from 64 to 65 in 2011, the first time the expansion occurred since the 85 when it grew to 64 teams. So let's leave it alone. It does not need to change. Do not bend into whoever's suggesting this. Nope. Everything does not fit into everything. You can't put everything does not fit into a square hole. Every sport is not the same. As much as people want to create them and pretend that they are, they're not. I'm sorry. You're not going to get the same excitement for the men's as the women's. You're not. They're not the same. And it has nothing to do with intelligence. It has nothing to do with anything other than they're just simply not the same. And the interest is just not going to be there. That's just life, man. But hope everyone, appreciate everybody joining us. How's everybody doing today? Fred points out almost 1/3 of the D1 schools go to some type of postseason tournament, whether it's the NIT or the CBI, and most people don't care about those last two, and that's fine. The Reds, Michael, are the first team in 130 years with 0 runs with less than 8 hits in a 3-game span. Okay, that can't be. There's got to be a little bit more to that. Hello, Cheryl Sizemore. Hope you're doing well. Appreciate you very much. Yeah, I'm going to have to study on that comment, Michael. The Reds are the first team in 130 years with 0 runs, less than 8 hits in a 3-game span. Is that true? I mean, no team has scored 0 runs in 3 games? That's kind of hard to believe. I was wondering what was going to happen after the All-Star break. What happens? Is there a change? Is there a change that happens? You end that mojo every year at the break. People use that as a barometer, a gauge to look back. What happened? Hopefully that's not the deal for the Reds. As they have had a tremendous second half of the first half of the season. Hopefully they can get back on track and continue to watch some exciting baseball. Yes, RC, are you just popping in?
I was just letting you know it's about time to break in about a minute or so.
Beautiful. Well, we'll do that in about a minute or so.
Quick question, though. Do you have any reason why Jalen Hood-Schifino did not play last night? I saw his coach's decision, but
no idea. That was too late for me. So probably resting. I'm not sure. I have to check into that, but I've not seen anything. Good question. But no, I do not know. I did not know he had another game last night to play.
Yeah, I believe it was Lakers and Clippers, and it went down to the last second. It was like a 1-point game.
Good question. No, I do not know. Maybe we can try to find out in the break.
Sounds good.
Which we've got lots more coming up today. Dustin Dopirak will be joining us. Looking forward to that. So he comes up a little later. Keegan Nickoson as well, formerly of the Hoosier.com, now with the covering Cincinnati out of the Big 12, but was just down at the Big 12 media days for football coming up. That was down in Dallas. And I like to hear the scuttlebutt there as Texas, Oklahoma entering their final year with the Big 12 as they will head out to the SEC. You know, I've talked about Oklahoma and Oklahoma State, Bedlam. Apparently that series has come to an end, according to Mike Gundy, the Oklahoma State coach. And do they have to? No, they don't. They can continue to play that if they wanted to. But they may get in the way of an SEC just having to play 8 tough games. It's another thing. The SEC sticking to the 8-game conference slate. Until that changes, nothing is the same, people. You can't have tournaments and championships when things are not the same. And we'll talk about that and much more as well. You're listening to Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Jim Coyle with you, back with more right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
It says right here, Hood Schifino did not play in Sunday's game because of a groin injury.
There you go. Now you have your answer.
Yep. Hope he's all right. Jim, we go live in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio here on this Monday. It's July 17th. Thanks a lot for being with us. Appreciate you. Hope you're having a great start to your week and that you had a great weekend. Plenty coming up this week. Don't forget, the Never Lose Hoop is this Thursday. RC, if you can pop that up there. But you can go to golf.eventstatus.com and just search Never Lose Hoop. There you go. Events.golfstatus.com. Events.golfstatus.com. And just punch in Never Lose Hoop in the search bar. It'll pop up. You can register. You can be a supporter in many different ways, but looking for players as well as looking forward to that shotgun start starting at noon on Thursday. Looking forward to playing in that as well. As had a great time last year. Speaking of golf, how about Rory McIlroy getting back on the winning side of things? As he's getting ready for the Open, which will be coming up, as he won the Scottish Open this past weekend, becoming the only golfer to win the British, Irish, and Scottish Open. So therefore, there you got the trilogy. Good for him. Good news for him, though, as he heads towards the Open. When does that start? Must be coming up this week. Is that this week? But a big victory for him as he has been playing well. Also, Wimbledon. Alcatraz. No, I'm just kidding. Alcaraz wins it over Djokovic. How about a 27-minute marathon game in just in the third set? A 27-minute game. One game in a set. One game in one set took 27 minutes. That's hard work. That is hard work. If you think otherwise, you're nuts. But yeah, that's a tough loss for Djokovic. Good win for the Joker at NBA this year, but not at Wimbledon. Didn't work out for him. The Reds, let's see. We talked about them earlier.
Jim,
Yes,
I have a question about Jokic and kind of like the modern big man, because Friday on the show, it's been mentioned, how 25 years ago, Edie would have been a high pick in the draft. And do you believe that Jokic kind of showed that it's not dead for the big man in the NBA, that there's still potential for big men to flourish, or is there something different about Jokic in your opinion?
He can shoot from 3-point. He can run the point. So, no, he didn't show jack. He just shows he's a great player. But Edie has none of those skills. So, no bearing for me. They don't play the same. One plays very athletic and one does not. So they're very different. If you can do something with that size besides be big, but yes, no, he has not. He's just shown he's a great player, is all. He has expanded his game. He has great skills. So that would be my answer to that.
Thank you.
Tana said that he's bummed about Badunga canceling his other visits. I guess that is regarding his visits to all of the schools after going. He did visit Duke, though, correct? Yeah, we'll see. I don't. The thing is, how long is he going to be in college basketball? I think he's a one-year player. And while you certainly want to get those and get all of them if you can, especially the in-state players, it's not as big a loss as it appears when they're just one and done. That doesn't affect. I don't think that affects recruiting in this situation.
With Badunga canceling his other visits, he was on Indiana's campus a lot. Is that insignificant at this point?
I don't think so, but people are going to read into it however they want to read to it. But I think that he kind of knows what he wants to do in his head, it sounds like. So He has said many times he wants to make a decision before his senior season, at least before the season starts, and that's quite a ways off. But I personally don't get all hung up in recruiting, because I'm not going to get all hung up in what an 18-year-old kid, a 17-year-old kid's doing. I'm just going to report it. So I don't get wound up in it.
And 2 of our 3 biggest recruits in the last 2 years have come in like June, right?
When you say our, who are you referring to?
Oh, sorry, Indiana. And I mean Malik Renew and Mackenzie Mbako both joined really late in those classes, and Indiana fans were really excited for both of those recruits. But those weren't recruits to particularly follow throughout the cycle.
And that's another reason why I don't get wound up about recruiting. Recruiting has become a different beast a long time ago, and it continues to evolve in these last few years. And it is what it is now. It's not what it was just as recently as 3 years ago. People are just coming from all over. All you have to do is succeed and win, period. And yeah, there's going to be guys that are in the program for 3 years, but the stars aren't going to be. The stars are not. They're going to be here short time, and that's the evolution of the game now. And Mike Whitson has elevated the recruiting for Indiana in that regard. It would be nice. I know Indiana fans would like to see Indiana players playing, and that'll change as well as that there hasn't been a great class. 24, not a great class. The Indiana staff still, this is just their 3rd year, so 24 class is not something that was great and didn't have a great need, but you never know what that need is now because of the transfer portal. And the portal is going to be a lot more useful than in-state recruiting. Because every year you're going to have probably a minimum of 5 new faces. A third of your team will be new faces year in, year out now. Via graduation, via transfers, via whatever. You should just plan on there being 5 new faces every year. This year it was 6. Could have been 7. As they still have an opening scholarship right now. So, but get used to that. That's not going to change. That's not going anywhere. Because first of all, if it's not like that, you're not getting the influx of talent you need. Because you're going to need an influx of talent every year, an infusion every year. Because you should have a couple of one and dones on your roster. You're going to need that talent. There's going to be people that transfer year in, year out, every year now. Doesn't matter. You just can't make everybody happy. Can't do it. Not possible. So there's that. Injuries, opportunities. There's just there's too many variables involved now to not have a minimum of 5 new faces on a program that is trending upward. And this is going to, I'm not saying this to cut on Purdue. Purdue is not a team that you saw 5 new faces. And I don't know that you see 5 new faces every year. That's not the type of program that Matt Painter is running at the moment. But if they don't trend in that direction, I don't think you will ever see Purdue even having the opportunity to be a national player. Once Edey leaves, because he's a Oh, he's a different beast. I don't know that you can do what Painter has done up to this point. We'll see. He could prove everybody wrong. He absolutely can. I'm not saying that he can't, but I don't expect it to be that way. I think that they're going to have to get on. They're going to have to get on a different trajectory, in my opinion, and by that they Purdue, to compete at a national level. They haven't competed at a national level ever. If you want to be honest with you, going to 2 Final Fours in over 100 years, that's not competing on a national level to me. So are they happy with just being a player in the Big Ten? I sure wouldn't think so. I wouldn't think so. That has got to come to a head at some point. It did for Indiana. It wasn't good enough for Indiana. And that's why they're back to where they are right now, of trying to land the type of talent where they can compete year in, year out on a national scale. Have they done that yet? No. But they're heading in that direction. At least it appears that way to me from what Mike Woodson is getting accomplished. You got to win on the floor. But it's a different opinion. I mean, it's a different take from people. It's a different view from people. I can't speak for Purdue fans. Are they happy with winning a Big Ten title? Sure. But how happy can you be with losing to an average of a 14 seed for 3 straight years? Having made 2 Final Fours in the entire history of your entire program. You know, it's not accidental. You can't have that much success in a conference as good as the Big Ten and be that bad nationally. It's not accidental. The Big Ten itself has not exactly set the world on fire from a national standpoint in the last 20 plus years. So there's something to be said for that as well. Does that change? I think so. As they continue to become a national conference, the Big Ten, with the addition of UCLA and USC, does it end there? I mean, I can't imagine it ends there with just having 2 teams from that far just because of the travel. That's above my pay grade. Tanis asks, at what point are we trading IU tradition and culture for global product branding and ending up like Kentucky and their generic Blue Nation? Well, I guess that's a question people have to ask. Do you want to be successful or not? That's the question. How badly do you want success? Because what's been being done has not worked. This is not 1980. You cannot recruit or play as if it was. Things have changed. And therefore, things have to be done differently. How different? Now, that is a question. Doesn't mean you have to change every single little thing, but you have to adjust to the times. You have to adjust to the abilities of getting done what your goal of getting accomplished is. Why are they not being achieved? Those are always great discussions. Dustin Dopirak joins us next. You're listening to Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Jim Coyle with you. We're back with more right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
There are lots of great questions about why the Big Ten doesn't perform in March. But then sometimes I wonder how much of it has to do, which I know 20 years of data is hard to say is inaccurate. However, when it's a single elimination tournament, how many years do you say the best team actually wins the tournament, right? Like the best team throughout the regular season. Like that Duke team that Indiana beat in 2002 might have been one of the greatest college basketball teams ever during the season, right? But
yeah, but just that's a team that was competitive. How many teams has Indiana had that had a shot to win a national championship since then?
One, the 2013 team.
Maybe
the Eric Gordon team too, they were rolling, but no.
Yeah. Yeah.
Morning, Dustin.
Good morning, you guys.
Hey, brother, how are you?
Doing good, Jim. About yourself?
I can't complain.
Good.
Nobody wants to listen to it.
Oh.
What's new with you?
Just, week back from Vegas now. Got back to feeling like I'm in the land of the living. So.
I hear you.
Feels a little more normal.
Did you see JD?
I did. Yeah, I did get to see JD a couple times.
All right, guys.
He seemed to be living his best life.
He's got it going on, I think.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's getting some direction there.
We go live in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat here on this Monday. It's July 17th. Dustin Dopirak joining me now. Dustin, how are you, sir?
Doing well, Jim. About yourself?
Cannot complain. Back in studio, and see you're back among the land of the living as well from Las Vegas.
Yeah.
How was that out there?
It was good. Just, hectic, a lot of running around, stuff like that. Did not, I think I probably said last time, did not prepare myself. Was not out there doing Vegas in the way that you do Vegas. Didn't do any gambling, didn't do any drinking, kept it together. I think I said I went out on the boat with my cousin, had a good time doing that. So,
Did he wear his Elvis outfit when you were out on the boat?
What's that?
Did he wear his Elvis costume out on the boat?
He did not. He doesn't do that. Doesn't do that. No.
And, I failed to mention.
I don't think he still fits because he used to do it when he was young. He wanted to be young Elvis. And so he,
young Elvis.
So,
I forgot to mention JD was on with us again, JD Campbell. And I forgot to tell him about your cousin. Like, I'm sure he would have enjoyed that because I know you ran into JD out there.
Sure. Yep. No, JD seemed to be good. His son was there also. Chris was out there. So that was cool to hang out with the Campbells. They were having a good time enjoying Vegas. Was there. It was cool. We were there. We hung out together Friday night. And by hung out, I mean sat together on press row and watched Hood Schifino and the Lakers. And so then after that went back, Will Sheehy obviously works for the Warriors now. So JD went back and talked to him. I got to talk to him for a little bit and got to catch up with Will, which is really nice to get a sense of how he's doing and everything. And working in the analytics department for the Warriors, and just said, he wants to try to change the game. And that was really cool. It's cool to see 30-plus-year-old Will, like you sort of wondered how that guy would age. And he seems to be doing great. He seems to be enjoying post-playing career, life after several years playing professionally in Europe. He's enjoying the, I guess you would say, front office thing. He's not necessarily a GM, but he's in analytics and he's around the game and everything. And so cool to see him in those circumstances.
Absolutely. And then, of course, Jalen Hood Schifino had a good run in Las Vegas. Did not play last night because of a little groin strain, it looked like. But other than that, a good run. And then Trace Jackson Davis comes along and didn't play until his last two games and ends it with a double-double. So a nice little pop in for Trace Jackson Davis.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I didn't watch any of his games. Obviously, I was gone by the time he got in the games. We, watched a couple Warriors games in hopes that he was going to play. But what I've seen, just popping up on Twitter and everything is you see the guy that they drafted, somebody that can pass the ball, play in that pick and roll stuff that they do and be able to be a playmaker as a role man, again, which is just really important for what Golden State does. But, you saw the athleticism, the dunking, everything like that. It just, every sign says that, for a team that's going to be lacking bigs, after Draymond Green and Kevon Looney, he's going to have some opportunities to play some important minutes, especially during the regular season. Obviously, the rotation will tighten up when they get to postseason play, and you'd presume because they're the Warriors that they're going to make it to postseason play again. But he's going to have a lot of opportunities to make some contributions and have some growth throughout the year. But you saw a lot of positive things. Obviously, you get to Game 3 of the Summer League, and a lot of the main guys, the returners, stop playing, and you start to see some of the first-round picks start to cycle out. At that point, it's really for late first-rounders, second-round guys, two-way guys, likely G League bound guys to start to make an impression. And, the basketball is not as pretty looking at that point. So it's a little bit of a different scenario he was walking into, but you still, I thought, saw some pretty good signs for what he was doing.
Yeah. And he has to be a lot more confident. Not that he wasn't confident. He's always been confident in his abilities, but he's probably proving a few people wrong, I guess I should say. Not that that's the intent, but a byproduct of whether or not he's going to be able to play in this league or not. And he was selected for a specific style of play and role, and he's tried to lean right into that, it seems.
Sure, that's definitely how he handled, Summer League for sure. I mean, obviously you can't come out of Summer League and feel like anyone's proven anything. It's Summer League. These guys got drafted, 3 weeks ago and have, had 4 or 5 days to practice with a group of guys that, in large part are not going to be their teammates. Maybe a handful are, but that's about the extent of it. They didn't, they weren't in there practicing with Steph Curry and Chris Paul and Klay Thompson and those guys. Like he was, playing with guys that are further down the list. Brandon Podziemski, the other, the first round pick. I can't remember how you say his name, but I just tried off the top of my head to guess there. But it's getting an idea of how some of your younger teammates function, but you don't really know, what you're going to be doing and everything like that. And there were people out there trying to call Victor Wembanyama a bust after the first Summer League game, and people just get way out of hand when it comes to this stuff. But yeah, I mean, I think he'll have a lot of opportunity though to prove people wrong in a sense. I mean, I think again, you talk to the Pacers, and I think they'll ultimately stick by what they thought, which was he's a center and we have too many centers. And to start with, and there will be other teams who look at it that way that, hey, yeah, we always thought he was a good small ball five. That's just not what we needed. At that point, we didn't have anything bad to say about him. We just didn't need what he brought, and Golden State did. That doesn't mean we were wrong. It means, frankly, we knew where he fit, and it wasn't with us. And so, that's going to be a thing. But he's got to have reason to have a chip on his shoulder, this whole time. And he's going to go in and, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if I didn't see what number he wore, but I wouldn't be surprised if he wears number 57, just to remind everybody, just how much he was passed over. I'm sure that's going to be something that drives him certainly through this year and probably for years to come, is feeling like he was let go and, have that push him to be as good of a player as he can be. But, I mean, he is what I thought he was when the thing started. Honestly, when the draft started, I think he's a small ball five, and I think he's absolutely good enough to be a small ball backup five in the NBA. And I think he'll prove that. And I think he'll absolutely make an impact with Golden State, And so I think I don't think there are as many people that are going to be wrong on him. It's just they're going to look that way because he was a second round pick and there was only one pick left on the board.
Yeah, I think he wore number 33 from what I've seen. Not that matters. But a great point. Good suggestion there about the 57.
He should do it. Tell Trace to wear number 57 to stick it in everybody's eye. I support that.
That's a good thought. That sounds like something that would go on. But shouldn't he focus more on just moving forward?
Oh, Sure. Yeah.
That sounds like something I would say. That sounds something like I would say.
I would say this. It gets into the a sort of metaphysical discussion of the value of pettiness in sports. And I think it's Tyrese Halliburton for instance is one guy who, he's one of the most likable guys in the NBA, but he has this sort of river of pettiness running through him that he embraces, and he uses the phrase. He was on Paul George's podcast last week, and I got to listen to all that just to get a sense of what the former face of the Pacers and the new face of the Pacers were like speaking together. And Halliburton just mentioned, yeah, man, I'm petty. Sometimes I'm just petty. And I remember things. I'll bring up something a reporter wrote about me about how he didn't think I was going to be this and didn't think I was going to be that. And I'll bring it up in interviews. And, it can be a driving force. And obviously that sort of stuff can eat you up, if you don't have the right place to put it. And have a way of using it positively without ever letting it beat you down or letting it drive you or letting it just generally make you a jerk. But it can have some value too. And so, I think it could have some value for him. But obviously at the end of the day, the most important thing is he's got a good spot. I'm talking out of both sides of my mouth here, saying it's, he should use it. But at the end of the day, the reason why he is where it is because he fitted Golden State and not in other places. If Golden State picked 40th, he'd have got picked 40th. If it or 35th or whatever, if they had a pick up there, they weren't going to use a first round pick on him, but wherever they had a second round pick, they were going to take him because they needed that. They needed depth at big, and a lot of those spots either didn't or got to a certain place and didn't want, once the Pacers got to their 47th pick, they didn't want anybody they were going to have to put on the roster. So at the end of the day, they're like, well, he's better than Mojave King. Yeah, he is better than Mojave King. They picked Mojave King so they could send him back to New Zealand, and keep a roster spot open so they could get somebody else. They took Oscar Tshiebwe, and put him on an immediate two-way. And so I think we talked about this on here that it's like, okay, well, you went and got another 5. Well, it's like, well, yeah, I can put him on a two-way, and that's just the roster piece to it. They couldn't put another center on the 15-man roster, and Golden State was like, the only thing we want still to put on our 15-man roster is a center. And so it was all about fit. That was the driving force, especially getting the second round. There's going to be plenty of guys taken before, again, Mojave King is not going to play in the NBA next year. He's not going to play in the G League next year, and that was the point. So that's the weirdness of how the second round works. There's going to be plenty of guys picked ahead of him, and you're going to look like that guy's not doing anything, that guy's not doing anything, that guy's not doing anything, that guy's doing anything. Why didn't they pick Trace Jackson Davis? He wasn't picked to do anything. That's by design. There's a reason why you don't know what Mojave King's doing. They picked him on purpose, so they didn't have to add him to the roster. They had too many other guys they needed. You can't put more than 15 guys there. But on the flip side of that, should Trace use that to be and point to that, be like, that guy's not doing anything? Yeah, Trace should totally do that. Whether it makes sense, it's accurate or it's fair or not, Trace should do it.
Absolutely. And next year when Zach Edey is drafted, I don't know that Zach Edey doesn't have the tools that Trace has, the number of tools in his bag. I wonder, as dominant as he is in college, is he going to be that limited at the next level?
You know what? It's a big piece. The thing is what Trace, and Trace isn't great at this. He's not spectacular, but he's better than some other options. Is it just having those quick feet and being able to get out and defend on the perimeter and not just be absolutely blown by and toasted when you get in the pick and roll. And that's a big thing there. And I thought, got to watch a little bit of Oscar Tshiebwe up close. And if there's one thing, just over, while the Pacers were in summer league. And I think the one thing that you look at and say, that's a concern, is he's a little bit slow footed. And when he does get on the perimeter, you're like, oh, I don't see him being able to stay in front of the guys he's got to be able to stay in front of. I mean, the rebounding tool absolutely translated 100%. I mean, he averaged like 7 rebounds a game and he was only playing 13 minutes. I mean, that's just utterly wild numbers. Obviously, it's summer league and it's different, but you saw, okay, what is it that makes this guy such a great rebounder? And he was just so good at being in position and boxing out, and that skill is absolutely going to translate. But you put him out on the perimeter and you're like, oh no, like he's not going to be able to keep anybody in front of him. He's just going to get absolutely toasted out there. Like he's just not, you just don't see the swiftness and the bounce and the moving back and forth. And you're like, okay, well, is that going to be a trouble for Edey? I think it will be. It's definitely going to be a thing. And I think that's a significant issue. And like, obviously you can play drop coverage and stand back and have a little bit of room between, you and that guy, but then that guy could just drill a 3 in front of you or a pull up jumper in front of you and have an easy floater. So that's definitely an issue that Edey's got. It's just, the bigs have to be athletic. I mean, like I think we overstate the extent to which you have to be a shooter. But I think the more important thing is that you've got to be switchable. Like you can't get like, are you going to lose a lot of those battles? When you're out there on guards, if you're a big guy, yeah, but you've got to at least be able to recover. You've got to at least be able to keep that guy in front of you for a couple seconds so somebody can switch off and help. Somebody can save you, but like you got to be there long enough that he's not at the rim before you have a chance to even set your feet, and so that's, again, if I'm looking at Zach Edey, that's my concern. Now there are other guys with Edey-ish builds that are probably more muscular, that are that have been reasonably effective in the league in the last couple of years. Jonas Valanciunas steps to mind. Yusuf Nurkic. Some really big dudes that are getting by on rebounding and setting picks and stuff like that. So like there's a place for him in the league, but that's still the big red flags. Is there's the shooting piece, there's the handling piece, that some of these guys that are playing the 5 can do that stuff. The Chet Holmgrens on top of the Victor Wembanyama's. But it's also that there's a ton of pick and roll in the NBA, and there's a ton of putting you on a guard who can absolutely scorch you. And, some of these big guys, you just get in trouble doing that. And, you can see why it's a liability.
Yeah. And adding Obi Toppin to the Pacers, I don't know that could be, is that as big as it is in my mind?
It's really significant. I mean, like, obviously, it's a sort of scenario where, okay, well, this guy didn't get the minutes here. Like he can absolutely be one of those scenarios where like he just picked the wrong place to be a power forward. I mean, Julius Randle's an all-star. And so when you get trapped behind an all-star, what are you going to do? Ultimately, and with the Knicks in particular, one thing I saw pointed out in a story about, them looking to move on from Obi, was that, they were never going to play Obi and Randle together. They were not going to say like, okay, let's play just have some smaller lineups every once in a while where we got 2 guys who can really run and really score the basketball. Tom Thibodeau is a defensive minded coach, always has been. So he was always going to have a rim. If he was going to have a scoring minded 4, he was going to have a rim protecting 5. And he had that in Mitchell Robinson and Hartenstein, the big dude. I can't remember his first name, but they had those two that's there to protect the rim and set picks and, not move all that fast because they had power forwards who could really score. But I mean, it trapped Toppin in this position where he was averaging 15, 16 minutes a game because Randle was playing 35 because that's what you play at All-Stars. And so, he was only just getting so much. I mean, he never averaged more than 17 minutes, and there's going to be opportunity there. Now, he's got to fight with Jarris Walker. I mean, you saw some real stuff from Walker, his defensive ability, his switch ability. I mean, the thing that really stood out to me about Walker was just the quick hands on the perimeter. I mean, he picked a couple guys' pockets, playing out there when a 6'6", 250-pound guy can get out there and just really take it from you, out on the wing. That's something that's noticeable, and that's important in this league. But Toppin can really still score, on small sample size and whatever. I mean, can really get out and run, can still get up, leap. finish in transition, be a real, run with the point guard wing guy who can, get to the rim and throw down a dunk, and throw down a lob and stuff like that. Like, he's going to be great for Halliburton. And I think, Rick Carlisle kept pointing out that he was one of the best guys in the league at effective field goal percentage in transition because he's just getting all kinds of dunks down there. But he can still shoot it from outside, and he's got a big body. I mean, like, I think the one thing that you want to see more from him that you haven't seen is rebounding. He hasn't rebounded at a very high clip, and he's got the body. He's 6'9", pretty big wingspan, 220, and can get up. So it's like, hey man, go get some boards. So there needs to be some more of that. And I don't know if he's a great defender, but again, is a guy that can really play in that transition and score. And, you only got him for, 1 year on the contract, but you're only paying him 6.8. If you want to give him a big raise at the end of the year, you can, you don't have to. And you only gave up a couple second round picks. I mean, it's a really nice fit for what they got. Didn't cost them a lot in either money or draft picks. Just really easy decision to make, especially all of the big power forwards on the free agent market ended up re-signing, basically, staying home and collecting a big paycheck to do it. So, they obviously were able to sort of counter, go get Bruce Brown, who they really liked, and then get Toppin to really, backfill at power forward where they really felt like they had a hole.
We've got to take a break. We've got lots more coming up here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Dustin Dopirak is with me. We're back with more right after this.
We'll be right back to the golf club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
What's up with you this week, man?
We're getting into the point that it's getting to be a whole lot of nothing. So
that's beautiful.
I'm not upset about that. No, I mean, I'll have some, leading off of, moving on from summer league stuff. What do we learn? What do we think the depth chart looks like? Start to talk about, rolling into the season and everything. And obviously, I'll keep an eye on things. There was certainly some talk about the possibility of them pursuing Pascal Siakam. And if that becomes a thing, then that obviously will provide me with a whole lot more content opportunities. But other than that, it's starting to, start to focus toward the season and start to, put together pieces for features and, try to get a hold of some, outside contacts and everything and start building for that. I got a chance to, hoping to call John Halliburton sometime this week and, start working on a big Tyrese piece and that kind of thing. So, but other than that, like second half of summer is kind of real summer for me, I guess. The first time we're going through this thing and, figuring out what it does for my social calendar. So apparently I'm not expected to do very much in July and August.
Well, you've got Farm Aid coming up now. Possibility.
There's that.
Whatever else is coming to Deer Creek.
Ruoff and whatnot.
Clippage.
Yeah. We're going to see who do I got coming? Definitely going. Got a buddy of mine here who's a Pixies fan, so we're going to that in August. I got a couple punk rock shows I got scheduled.
Yes.
So, couple of those. Not sure which ones I'm going to. Thinking about Parliament Funkadelic at the end of August too.
Ooh.
That might be a jam. That might be something. So I haven't done it yet, but strongly considering it. Haven't gone forth and bought those tickets, but might have to.
All right, guys. We go live in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio here on this Monday. It's July 17th. Thanks a lot for being with us. Appreciate you. Hope you had a great weekend, and we can get you started off to a good start to your week. Dustin Dopirak with me, talking about all kinds of things. We just finished up talking about the NBA as the Summer League comes to a close. Now we just kind of move off into a little hibernation, for a little bit. Thinking about some concerts coming up. You got Farm Aid coming back to Indiana this fall in September. Dustin's got some punk shows to go to because he's such a punk.
That's correct. Don't forget it. Don't forget it. Let that be known and made aware. Yeah.
The Pacers had a good summer league. The Pacers team. They played pretty well.
First two anyway. When they obviously had never covered summer league to this extent. Headliner, Kevin. Headliner. I'm opening for Gaslight Anthem. Been ready for that. Anyway, no, I think what was I going to say? I wish I could play guitar. I wish I had any level of musical talent. I don't. But that would be kind of cool. No, I mean, the rhythm of these things with summer league obviously is that, returners, big time rookies play a couple games and then they move on. And so, in the Pacers case, Benedict Mathurin, Andrew Nembhard, Isaiah Jackson played 2 games. Jarris Walker played 4. So when they had everybody together, they had a pretty good team. The first 2 games they won, I think, by a combined score of about 31 points. Just were really in control. I thought Andrew Nembhard did a really good job of running the offense, and just being the same really good pesky defender that he usually is. Isaiah Jackson, I thought, played with just a lot of energy, getting up and down. 35 rebounds in 2 games. I thought was really impressive. Benedict Mathurin was chucking it a little bit, but he still averaged 22 a game, and you saw a lot of that, ability to go hard to the rim, finish, made some shots and whatnot. And I thought he defended well. And I thought with those guys and Jarris Walker, they put together a really good defensive unit, did a good job of swarming around guys, making it really tough for guards to get to the rim. Once they got there, swatting away a lot of shots, rebounding it pretty well. Just was a pretty good unit. I thought one of the better, starting fives in summer league in the first 2 days. The other ones, I would put Houston up there because Jabari Smith was fantastic for 2 games. You had 38 in the one. Maxine's about to have some thoughts, but that group was really good. You took Mathurin, Nembhard, and Jackson off the floor, and they were not the same team, which goes without saying. And again, they weren't going after a banner. They weren't trying to win a championship here. They were just trying to get some work for their young guys, put them in positions where they were going to be primary, ball handler, primary scorer, primary big guy in Jackson's case, and, get them some more action in those regards and then move on without getting them hurt. And that's what they did. And they got in the game too and started, and it was, you're relying on Isaiah Wong and Ben Shepherd and putting Jarris Walker in positions when he's a point guard. It was just okay at best, and it was pretty rough at worst. So after that, it kind of fell off. But, a lot of the guys that were getting minutes, are going to be two-way guys. And really, in the case of yesterday's game, a lot of the guys were getting minutes just after Walker was not part of it anymore. A lot of those guys are not going to be on the team. They're maybe going to get, contracts with the Mad Ants. Maybe they won't. Maybe they'll be somewhere else. Maybe they won't be playing in this country again. Mojave King definitely won't be. He'll certainly be playing internationally. So they don't have to give him one of those 2 ways. So, they had some good moments when they were a full team, and once they didn't, predictably they went downhill.
Was there anything surprising or really, really surprising that happened? No one really seemed to make a case that wasn't already a known quantity, I don't think.
Sure. No, I think obviously, the biggest thing about Summer League, the biggest reason to watch it is, what do these first round picks look like in their uniforms and playing pros of any sort? The level of play, if you took summer league rosters and just made them a full league season, and played around that way, where would they be? Obviously they'd be, somewhere in between college and the NBA in terms of the quality of play. It would be considerably better than college, but it would be considerably worse than the NBA, and it would probably be worse than most European leagues, worse than the G League itself, probably. And obviously there are some star players in there that are better, but the whole group isn't that great. But you're going there mostly watching to see these first round picks and what they do, and just see them in the scenarios that the people that drafted them wanted, as opposed to what their college team wanted. And I thought Walker, like I said, I thought Walker did some really good things. He didn't shoot the ball particularly well. I think he shot 34.7% from the floor, which isn't great. You'd at least like him to be maybe a better finisher around the rim. Settled for a lot of jumpers. Isn't a great mid-range shooter. Hit the occasional three. You'd like to see the shooting getting better, but was really comfortable handling the ball in the open space. I thought he passed really well. He had some really, really slick passes that you don't really see a forward make. You see a lot of forwards make. Certainly there are some who do. LeBron James being, nominally a forward, LeBron certainly makes those kinds of passes. But that all stuff was good. But I thought just the defense really stood out, especially when they had a good unit together. Really proved that he can defend on the perimeter and, swat the ball at the rim. It just had some amazing blocks when he just swallowed a guy up in the Wizards game. I mean, guy went up trying to dunk the ball and he just took it from him and just seemed like he took his whole soul. But a couple steals I thought were really impressive. Just he got, a fingertip on a ball, when someone was really trying to cross him up, and kind of like tipped it around his back. And just kind of showed you again just how good and active of hands he had and how good he was at keeping guards in front of him. And that's a big deal. I mean, that's what they wanted. They needed, better defensive players. And if Walker's going to be a good defensive player right out of the gate, that really makes him worth the pick. I mean, that was the whole point in getting him, and they need to get better on that end. So I thought that was really big and important. After that, nobody surprised me. Nobody did anything that I didn't expect to see. Ben Shepherd had some good moments, and I think that was, about it. He didn't blow me away as a number 26 pick. I didn't look at him and say, oh my God, that guy should have got 10 picks higher. But he seemed like he played well enough to kind of fit where he was. Isaiah Wong, obviously you've seen some really good stuff from him at Miami. So, him going off for 21 in the last game of the summer league, doesn't blow you away either. You've seen he can make shots. You've seen he can get to the rim. So you presume that he can do it when most of the best players are off the floor at this event. I mean, he didn't, I didn't look at him and say, well, that guy deserves, a roster spot. He deserves to be on the 15-man, and he's going to push TJ McConnell or Andrew Nembhard out of a backup job. I didn't see that much from him to see that. I saw good things. I mean, I think he certainly belongs on a two-way. You're definitely comfortable, if at some point in the year, one of those guards goes down or misses some time. And, again, like when it comes to regular season, it doesn't have to be an ACL tear to take somebody off the floor. Guys got a groin strain or a sore hamstring. Like, you're not trying to push it when you got to play 82 games. You err on the side of caution. So there definitely are going to be some games where someone's like, I'm just not quite there today. Might be a good time to bring up the two-way guy. And I think Wong will be perfectly comfortable in that scenario if he has to, come up on a two-way and play some games. Again, Sheboy, I think, can do some things, and you can feel confident there. Kendall Brown, I thought, played pretty well, and you already kind of had a sense of what he can be as a longer wing, a really athletic guy. Any of those two ways, you're just fine doing their job. If someone else gets hurt and you need some depth on the roster for a couple of days at a time or a couple of games at a time, there's no reason why you can't call any of them up, and they can do the job they're, paid to do.
And here's a shocker. LeBron James will play next year.
Never saw it coming. Who could have thought?
Man.
Definitely was planning the retirement ceremony. I was going to send him some cigars, which I'm sure he was waiting for me. Of course. There was never really a chance. And I think, he's such a funny character. He's just such an interesting character as a player. And there's, certainly, as we've said a billion times, and certainly deserves saying, this guy's been in the spotlight since he was 16. Really 2 full years before the draft, he was already becoming an obsession point when he was St. Vincent St. Mary's. So really, since then, he's been a big, huge deal. And so for a guy to have been in the spotlight that long and never done anything really wrong, and becoming every bit as good of the player as we expected him to be, that needs to be sort of stated every time we say this. And he's building a school in Akron, and LeBron James is by far a positive on basketball in the world at large. Every once in a while, though, he does some corny stuff when you're like, what is this, man? Why? Like, why? That was unnecessary. And I was like, why even float retirement? You were never going to retire. This guy's coaching, like we just talked about it last week. This guy's coaching AAU ball in the summer. He can't get away from this game. He can't get away from this game. He's like, I'm not sure the mental's going to be there. Yes, they are. This is all you want to do. Now you probably want to coach after this, but like you're showing up and coaching 16-year-olds in like this mad, crazy world of grassroots ball that like a lot of normal coaches are like, once they get a high school job, like, I'm never coaching that again, man. Like that's crazy. Parents, you have refs, you got all this, everybody's got to get their shots. It's this, it's that, it's whatever. LeBron's like, you know what I'm going to do in the summer? I'm going to coach grassroots ball. I make $1 billion, like I've got much money in endorsements. I don't have to ever work a day in my life. So I'm going to go volunteer to coach basketball in grassroots league in the summer. Like, who does that? Of course, this guy's not going to quit. What would he even do with himself in December? When he does retire, like we're going to have a Tom Brady thing for a while. Like there is definitely going to be a scenario where he's going to say 1 year I'm retired in June, and October is going to come around and he's going to get antsy, and then December is going to come around and he's going to play. Because he's not going to be a guy that can walk away. I think I want to be the best kind of player he can be. Like I buy that to a degree, but this guy, like I'll never forget watching him at Bronny's game. Like he couldn't sit still, and just like it's going to take a lot for him to, get to October and training camp and not want to be there. And so I don't know how that's still a ways from happening. I mean, this guy's still a phenomenal player. Like, even if you have the worst opinion of who he is as a player right now, he's a top 20 player. Like, even if you're just, minimizing him as much as you can and giving all credit to the rest of the guys, he's a top 20 player. I think he's at least top 10, and some nights he's top 5. And, all time, he's either the best or the second best player that ever played the game. So, like and again, he's still at 38. He's still definitely a top 20 player, and some nights can bring you 40 and 10 assists. He's still amazing.
Yeah, I wonder how quickly, when his career ends, does he buy a team? Not coach a team, but buy a team.
I mean, you're going to be, based on the new CBA, you're going to be able to buy stakes, and he's going to be the first guy to do that. Yeah, I mean, he can go in all directions. I mean, like again, him owning a team can certainly see it, but do I put it past him to be a head coach? I don't. And I know that's weird for a guy that makes that much money, like that's that big of a deal. You rarely see the true superstars coach because it's a hassle. It takes so much work. It takes so much effort. You got to grind. And when you've grinded for all that much in your career, and you've made that much money, and you don't have to do it, and you're going to take a pay cut to coach, like it's hard to do. But I don't know that he can walk away from the X's and O's. Like, I think he loves that. I think he sees the game, and I don't know. I'll be very interested to see if he can walk away from the court. Like
I don't know as being an owner, he would have to be the owner and not a minority guy.
I mean, I think he'll be a minority owner as soon as he can be. Like,
but would he be able to stand that, because he's not going to have?
I think he's going to do it. I think he's going to do that while he's still playing.
Oh.
I think he's going to do that while he's still playing. I'm saying when he hits the retirement mark, I don't know that he can be away from the court. Like, I don't know that he can do what Michael Jordan did, and Michael Jordan wasn't very good at it. So, like, I don't think he can step that far away. I don't think he'd be that removed.
Player coach?
Sure, he could do it. I mean, he's practically been that for the last 10 years. Like, he's just got a guy on the side knowing how many timeouts there are.
What's up next for you, brother?
Hopefully little.
That's right.
So,
Concerts,
no, I mean, obviously we'll keep
concerts.
tabs on things, see what happens. Certainly we'll have some finale stuff this week, looking at Summer League, kind of getting us writing up about, some stuff about where they stand, how their roster looks, going into, going past Summer League, at this scenario, looking at where they stand right now with what their roster is, what that looks like, kind of a player by player, position by position type deal. And then after that, it's just, again, keeping tabs and starting to build toward, October, and start to, gear up for some of those things, pick up the occasional GA assignment and go from there.
Dustin Dopirak, make sure you give him a follow and wish him well on his concert tour. We'll see you. We'll see you next week, brother. Thank you, sir.
Good, sounds good. Thank you.
The great Dustin Dopirak joining us here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio. We're back with more, including Keegan Nickoson right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
You got some sun.
Hail to the yeah, baby.
Where'd you go?
Florida. Yes. How was Dallas?
108 degrees.
But that's a dry
heat. Inside
heat.
The stadium and my Airbnb as much as possible.
But it's a dry heat.
Yeah.
I was kidding.
Went to the stockyards. That was fun.
Oh, yeah. I've been to the stockyards. Yes, I look a little tanner. I look a little tanner than you do.
I didn't go to Florida.
Although you have my glasses on. You have my glasses on, though.
You're
Do what?
Sandlot glasses.
You need to get a better internet connection. You need a better internet connection.
All right, guys. Hi, Keegan. Good to see you. We go live in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio here on this Monday. It's July 17th. Thanks a lot for being along. Just finished up with Dustin Dopirak, now joined by Keegan Nickoson, formerly of the Hoosier.com, now covering Cincinnati out of the Big 12. How was Dallas last week?
It was fun, really entertaining. They really tried to put on a show at AT&T and make it as big and as pompous as possible. And then anytime Mike Gundy steps behind a microphone, it's always entertaining to listen to him. So it was a good time. 108 degrees. I didn't get out to the stadium or my Airbnb a lot, but got to try Whataburger for the first time. So that's always interesting.
So is that the commissioner of the Big 12?
Gundy?
Yeah, you're
Gundy's the head coach of Oklahoma State.
Oh, Gundy. I see. I thought you said Dundee, and I'm like going Gundy. Yes. Who I talked about that a little earlier. He mentioned that in all practical purposes, the Bedlam series is over between Oklahoma and Oklahoma State.
Yeah. Anytime anyone brought it up, he was just joyous to be able to talk about it and to be able to say it's not our fault. They left, so it has nothing to do with our administration, our football team. That's all in Oklahoma. So he wasn't pulling any punches, and I think he would have talked to the media there for like 5-6 hours if given the opportunity, just to sit there and talk to him as much.
Well, he always will. He'll talk to anybody who wants to listen to him.
He's a funny dude. He's a really, really funny dude.
I'm not saying he's wrong.
Wraps it all together.
Yes. It does suck that while the Bedlam series is going away, there's another series that'll be coming back, Texas and then Texas A&M.
Mm-hmm. I'm not even old enough to remember how wild that got. I don't know, when did that end? When did the A&M go to the or the SEC?
Well, I don't know. That's how long ago it's been now, but whenever they did. So there's that. But
like Bedlam rivalry lopsided lately anyway. So
yeah, but here's the thing. I think it's BS because the SEC is still doing this 8-game conference thing, which is crap. There's a way you can limit. If they wanted to play the series, they could play the series. How many conference games does the Big 12 play?
9. And Oklahoma State's already booked out on their non-con until 2037. So nothing's happening until at least 2038.
Okay, why is it necessary to book games 12 years in advance when you have no idea who's going to be what, where, when, how, that's stupid. There should be some room. You should have room to want to add some games of importance or games that are, my gosh, that's just a long way out, man.
I'm guessing soon in contracts, the more prestigious team in the matchup, like say Indiana and Idaho. I feel like the teams like Indiana are going to want it said in the contract that they can completely wash away this game basically whenever they want at their discretion. Because I remember at a coach's show, Tom was asked why playing Idaho, and he's like, I wasn't even with the program when they scheduled this game, so I can't really tell you why we're playing Idaho. But yeah, I don't know, honestly. But I think teams are going to want to be way more flexible, especially with all the realignment talk. You have to create as much momentum and show that you can be a successful team and play the best competition. Like Cincinnati lucked into playing Notre Dame basically that year that they went to the playoff. If they didn't have that Notre Dame win on the road or maybe even at home possibly, I don't think they'd get into the playoff. I think
or maybe if they lost, they should have. If they lost Indiana like they should have, that was the worst playoff team in the history of the college playoffs.
I think you're forgetting about Washington, Michigan State.
They should have lost. I watched Cincinnati, a Cincinnati team that should have lost to Indiana. They had no right in the playoffs. I'm sorry. I will always think that. They should have never, ever won that game. Well. But how was the Big 12? How is it? It's got to be exciting for you.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's a great football conference, which I think is awesome. I'm excited that I probably get to go to Allen Fieldhouse 2 years in a row and watch Kansas play basketball. So that's going to be really cool. But yeah, it's just they want to be like the best football conference in the country, and I know that's probably never going to happen because the SEC is going to reign supreme. But the things Brett Yormark is doing,
there's another little conference called the Big Ten that might be in their way also.
Yeah, if USC can continue on the upward trajectory, but I'd say the SEC is in a pretty comfortable number 1 spot right now. And in terms of upward momentum and gaining traction, I think the Big 12 is probably going to be a more interesting conference than the Big 10. I'm not saying talent-wise, but Brett Yormark wants to target younger generations. He wants to create as much momentum as possible, and he's a extremely interesting dude. You should have seen him up there doing a State of the Union address. No podium, no nothing. He's just sheet of paper walking back and forth like a motivational speaker at a conference. And it's a sharp contrast covering Kevin Warren. Brett Yormark is the commissioner of the Big 12.
What does Kevin Warren have to do with it? And why did
I'm saying I covered Kevin Warren
conversation?
I'm saying I covered him for 2 years, and he was the most robotic and regular commissioner you could have ever had. There was nothing really interesting hearing him talk.
I noticed you didn't use the word worst.
I mean, I can't really speak on that in terms of commissioners. I don't pay attention to what they do until they do something interesting, which has only happened the last 3 years. So
interesting, yeah. I don't see interesting in his resume. No, not interesting. That's not the word that comes to mind. But yeah, I've got to give it to the Big 12, man. They've hung on it looks like they've been on the ropes. And they have been on the ropes, and they've kind of hung on. Losing UCLA or losing Texas and Oklahoma is huge, and not replacing them with something of that level, but yet still managing to hold on. They've done well, and they've done well with balance. They've balanced basketball and football kind of well. Maybe more so better than definitely better than the SEC. Whereas the Big 12 still has a solid basketball, or the SEC, I'm like,
They probably got better in basketball, losing Oklahoma and Texas and then replenishing with what they did, because Houston's been a wagon for the last 5-6 years. So they get Houston, and then they get Cincinnati, who's just constantly going upwards with Wes Miller. If they can hit on some recruits that they want to get, this is Cincinnati's year. Really good transfer class that, Wes Miller has his guys, and if they want to succeed, it's going to be this season. And there's not really, there's a lot of pressure. There's no excuses that can be had. But yeah, I think the best thing that has happened to the Big 12 is how the Pac-12 and ACC have really just dug themselves in the hole. The ACC with the contract, and then the Pac-12 with losing USC and UCLA, and then all their schools kind of, peeking around the corner, peeking over their shoulder to see what's going on in these conferences. Do we need to move somewhere? So I think the potential of what happens with Oregon, Utah, Arizona State, those schools, Oregon State, I think if the Big 12 can snatch up one of those, especially Oregon and Utah, I think that's going to keep them in the running. And if there's a big three, it's going to be SEC, Big 10, Big 12, and the ACC and Pac-12 are going to be struggling.
What stood out the most down at the Big 12 this year?
The food. Oh my gosh, the food. It was ridiculous. They have a full-time cook at AT&T Stadium that specializes in mac and cheese. They get paid a salary to make mac and cheese. And Jim, when I tell you it's the best mac and cheese I've ever had in my life, I'm not exaggerating. And then they literally gave us brisket and honey chipotle chicken and mac and cheese for media food. Man, all we get is regular old stadium food. It's no popcorn at Big Ten arenas, but I think it'll do.
Man. Well, all we get is regular old stadium food shipped in plastic containers, and yeah. Well, that's good. I'm glad you got to eat well. I'm sure your mom's happy.
Yeah, half the schools are in the middle of barbecue country, so
I get that.
I'm looking forward to trying all the best barbecue.
Well, they should invest in some Wi-Fi.
I tried to get on my hotspot, but
that's a joke. Yeah. So at least they've got that going for them, which, I can't think the Big Ten is no one really food oriented. None of the programs. Nebraska a little bit, and you've got corn with Iowa, and I guess you could say that somewhat to Indiana and Illinois.
Corn,
but you got some cheese with Wisconsin.
Ohio, the best media food I had was Purdue football and Michigan basketball. That was
Purdue,
consistently the best media food I always had.
Purdue football.
Barbecue.
Well, they do have a. Really, I don't see. It's been a couple of years since I've been to the football game. I don't remember. I do know where the worst is. And you could comment on that. I can't because I still cover, so I'm not going to. This in the Big Ten. So where's the worst food for you now that you're no longer covering the Big Ten?
Are we talking all sports combined, or are we talking just football?
Well, we'll do both. I don't know.
both.
I didn't know that they were different, to be honest with you.
Oh yeah. I mean, they're different.
No, not to me.
The worst basketball. Ooh, that's interesting. Iowa is up there. We just got a meal pass, and I got like some really crappy pizza and popcorn. That's what I remember. They didn't have any other like food available other than popcorn. And then, I mean, the worst football is Indiana because you get a pre-packaged gas station sandwich, and then they try to say, "Oh, but we're gonna give you insomnia cookies," which I mean, that's good. Insomnia cookies are good. But if I would like some food that isn't 90% bread, you choke on it.
Yeah, it's not. I'm not going to comment just because, but yeah, I'm not going to disagree, but I'm not going to comment. Yeah, just don't be trying to get me in trouble. Yeah, no. Baseball's always good.
Yeah,
baseball's good.
A lot of Papa John's. Yeah, baseball's fine.
So there's that. Who do you expect to win? Who's going to win the Big 12 this year?
I think it's Texas. I honestly think they had too good of a transfer class. Quinn Ewers is healthy. They have a top 10 wide receiver pick in Xavier Worthy that's going into his third season. He was super good as a freshman. I think it's going to be Texas. And like, and the rhetoric at media days was about the preseason poll rankings, and everyone is saying no one knows what's going to happen. They could easily come in 10th. They could come in first. Cincinnati was picked 13th. They could come in like 5th easily, just the parity in the conference. But I think Texas is too talented, and I think they had a decent year last year, especially with all the injuries. But I think it's going to be Texas, and I think Quinn Ewers is up for the Heisman at the end of the year.
Yeah, looking forward to that. So that with them going out, that has to not make them happy to be losing your champion. That's the last thing that you want to see happen. But what's the environment like with these two teams leaving, this being the last year? What was it like? Because now you've got the Big Ten. You've got some new teams coming in after this year.
There's a decent amount of contention, and I think everyone's pretty angry at Texas and Oklahoma. And I was asked the first day of media days, like, what's the attitude about the 4 teams coming in? Are people like annoyed? Do they not want to hear about it? Are they not interested? But I mean, they didn't really care about the 4 teams coming in because all the focus and attention was on the 2 teams leaving. So there was the scrums around Brent Venables and Steve Sarkisian at media days were large, and there were a lot of contentious questions and something that they had to dance around. But I think the most interesting thing was when the coaches were asked about Texas and Oklahoma, there was a lot of like, yeah, we love them. We're going to miss them. They do so much for the conference. And there was also a lot of Mike Gundy who's talking about, yeah, I mean, they're leaving. I can't do anything about it. I wish they wouldn't leave. I think it's dumb that they're leaving, but they are. So that's the situation we're in. But I think it's definitely a more interesting situation in the Big Ten because they're just getting 2 really good schools, and they're just adding. But, the Big 12 is just trying to make the best of a crappy situation.
We've got to take a break. Keegan Nickoson sitting with me right now, Indiana Sports Beat Radio. We'll be back with more right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Your connection sucks.
I'm trying to fix it.
I'm just letting you know it's god awful. But you have to have a good Wi-Fi connection into wherever you are, and it doesn't seem like you do. You can't just have a regular Wi-Fi, especially if you're going to do a lot of this stuff like I would think you would. You need to get the best that you can possibly get. It makes a gigantic difference. Like you're frozen right now.
Hello, hello, hello.
Yeah, I hear you.
Okay.
Did you do something different?
I put it on my hotspot.
Well, that made a gigantic difference.
That's what I had to do at AT&T. The Wi-Fi there was horrible, which is just amazing that you're going to have 400 media members and have a bad Wi-Fi.
Well, you've only got one, and it was bad Wi-Fi. How's it going?
It's going good. I'm having fun.
Nice little background there.
Yeah. House sitting for neighbors.
Ah.
So,
well, that's nice.
Camp starts first week of August. That's at Camp Higher Ground in West Harrison, Indiana.
West Harrison, Indiana. What?
Yeah, they've been doing that since like early Brian Kelly. Just wanted somewhere to go and like actually stay as a team and like have a resort kind of atmosphere for camp. So it's only like 15 minutes from me in Hamilton. No. It's named after Alexander Hamilton.
We'll go live whenever he gets back.
Not very tight on schedule, as usual.
I might not come back then.
Come on, get your coffee.
All right, Jim. We're gonna go live in 5, 4, 3,
man.
2, 1.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio here on this Monday. It's July 17th. Thanks a lot for being with us. Jim Coyle with you as always from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios. Keegan Nickoson joining me now. Keegan just returned from Big 12 Media Days, formerly with the Hoosier.com. College football around the corner. The Big 10, big changes coming, and this is the last year of divisions. This is the last year without UCLA and USC in the conference. So big changes coming there. Big changes coming to the Big 12. The last year with Texas and Oklahoma in the conference before they bolt to the SEC. Then we're going to have the SEC and the Big 12 with two juggernauts, formerly of the Big 12 and the Pac-12, which is going to change the landscape of college football. We've got the 12-team playoff coming as well, which is going to change the landscape of college football. A lot of changes coming, good, bad, there, other. I don't know if it matters, means diddly squat, to be honest with you, with the 12-team playoff, and especially with the SEC maintaining that stupid 8-game schedule, which is ridiculous. You cannot have a championship where things are not the same. Mm-hmm. And everything has to be the same. Everyone has to play the same amount of conference games. Whether that's 8 or 9. And I know why the SEC wants to maintain their 8. They want to control their own destiny and get as many teams possibly in as possible, only having to win 2 games in the conference to make a stinking bowl, which is ridiculous. But we'll see if there are any further changes coming. I'm sure that there will be, but what they will be, I don't know. But what's football going to be like next year, I wonder, when once these changes happen?
I don't know what football is going to be like this year. it's all just a crapshoot, basically. I mean, the Tennessee infractions make it even more like apparent that no one knows what's going on. I always think about the mental health of the student athletes when picturing this USC and UCLA addition into the Big Ten, because, and I guess it's even more prevalent with the Big 12, thinking about BYU, but it's just, it's interesting how the schools in the conference just try to focus on how much money they can make, and they completely disregard a Tuesday night 9 p.m. tip in Rutgers between USC and Rutgers, and the like how that's going to weigh on the students having to try to keep their grades up if there's a coach that actually tries to manage that in the proper way and doesn't just lie about eligibility and all that stuff. But I have no idea what football is going to look like, and it's even more fun that Alabama isn't as big of a wagon as they were, so it's kind of a more even playing field, even though Georgia's kind of looking to take over that mantle if they can continue to be consistently good. But I'm not sure. I'm really looking forward to watching Caleb Williams this year for USC. I think he's going to be extremely fun. Yeah, no idea. I couldn't tell you which way or the other.
Well, it's just I don't know where the sport itself is going to go, because not that there aren't other teams, obviously, outside of the SEC and the Big 12, Big 10 that are good. Mm-hmm. But when you just pull in two of the name programs, that doesn't leave a lot outside of those two conferences that are still what you would consider national champion type teams, programs. And when you start having more and more national caliber programs within one or two conferences, that's only going to grow within itself.
Yeah. Nicole Auerbach had an awesome article today on The Athletic, and it was kind of predicting where realignment is going to be in 10 years and the impact it's going to have on college football. And she talked about there's going to be a big three, and it's kind of the third spot's going to be fought between the Big 12, ACC, and Pac-12. But the Big 10 and the SEC are just going to be like the AFC and NFC and the NFL. And it's just exactly what you're saying. You think about teams that can consistently compete for a national championship or even a playoff spot outside of those conferences. Obviously, Clemson immediately comes to mind as someone that can possibly do it. Utah in the Pac-12 could possibly do it, and then Oregon. And then you're kind of searching for anyone else that could maybe do it. If Kansas State,
Washington, you don't think Washington? Seattle. See, they're in Seattle, so you've got to think TV markets as well. And that's why I eliminate Kansas State immediately. I'm like, okay, well, that I don't know about that.
But do you mean competing for a national championship, like just being able to play good enough football to get into the playoff and maybe make a run? Once a league is devoid of the best that it has, once, let's say, the Pac-12 loses Oregon and Washington, boy, the ACC has no shot to me. They're done. They're over. It's over for them. It is over for the ACC as far as football goes. Forget it. They're screwed at the turn of. Normally, you'd call it the turn of the century. This is the turn of the NIL, the turn of whatever you want to. They're done, because Miami it would have a shot because of where they're located and this and that. But Virginia Tech, you're never going to be Jack. Never going to happen again. It's over. You're never going to be a player on the upper level. And there are certain teams within the Big Ten and SEC they're never going to be, that haven't going to be, and they're not going to be ever in the future. Indiana, Purdue, I don't see it. I just don't see it happening. But the ACC, it's over for them. If I was Clemson, I would be looking for the fastest boat out of that conference that I could, because you can't win you cannot be a basketball conference, and that's what they are.
They're a
Yeah.
basketball conference. They
they're not
are
even-
screwed for football.
Yeah,
And they're not
the
even good
best
basketball right now.
conference either. Yeah.
Not anymore.
I wouldn't say that I wouldn't say the ACC is screwed, because when they expand to the 12-team model, I mean, we talked about it earlier. I mean, you don't think Cincinnati belonged in the playoff, but they still made it. So teams are going to be able to put together enough
sheer
runs.
luck. Sheer luck.
It was not luck. They
Sheer
beat
luck.
Notre Dame by multiple possessions at
They
Notre
were
Dame Stadium.
They were lucky to beat Indiana. That's all I have to say for the rest of my life. That was luck. They luck. That team should have never been in the playoffs ever. Ever.
Okay. But if Cincinnati can get in a 4-team playoff, then Florida State, Miami, Utah, Oregon, Clemson, maybe Virginia Tech gets a new coach, and they can completely reshape the culture and have a really good recruiting class and build stuff together.
Nope.
It just takes one good year to create momentum and can change everything.
It takes money, baby. It's going to take money. You've got
Yeah,
every
one good
player.
year.
Every player on Oklahoma's roster is making $70,000
Minimum. Yeah.
minimum.
I'm surprised.
Minimum.
I think Cincinnati is getting a decent number just for being on scholarship. And that's, if Cincinnati's getting a decent number, it's.
Are you telling me that every player on scholarship at Cincinnati is getting paid?
Yeah.
I find that hard to believe.
It's NIL. It's a standard rate.
But where's that money coming from? Where are they driving money from? It's Cincinnati, for God's sake.
Look up Larry Shakely after you get off the show today.
Well, just tell us about it.
Well, he's a donor who he's been the main donor since D'Antonio, since before Brian Kelly took over at Cincinnati. So he helped build a practice field. He has helped renovate everything. He's been the biggest donor since. And now he put the biggest donation in for this $134 million indoor practice facility that they're building to rival the likes of TCU, everyone in the Big 12, because they knew they had to get on a better recruiting kind of landscape and everything.
Then that makes me wonder a team about Indiana then. Indiana's in a much better league, but yet they're not getting anything like that. Nothing.
They don't care about football.
I get it. And
no one cares about football.
And I don't know that that's going to change.
No. And it's not a bad thing, because everyone likes basketball better.
Yeah, it is. It is a bad thing.
If you ask
98%. It's a bad thing, though, because football is the driving force behind college athletics, period, and end of story. Basketball comes in second. It may not come in second in Indiana, but it is second in the hierarchy of college sports.
So do you think Indiana could possibly in the future be removed from the Big Ten?
No.
Then they're fine. They're going to keep on giving all their money to basketball. Basketball is enough of a brand that the Big Ten will try every possible scenario, will include Indiana in the Big Ten.
Is there anything called pride? Surely along the way, somebody has to stop wanting to get their ass kicked every year.
It's going to take magic in a bottle, just like the 2020 season.
They had it, and they screwed it up. Don't get me going there. And I don't want to hear about this, that, and the other thing. That was bad hires. And it's
it's going to take magic in a bottle. And I keep on talking about Cincinnati, but that was a lot of
George upset. George is upset.
But yeah, so I mean, yeah, they have donors. Every big school is going to have an absolutely massive donor that's going to contribute a lot of money, and that's how it works. It's legal now. And
I don't know, can a program like Indiana get lucky, get lightning in a bottle while they're still trying to rebuild the flagship program, which is men's basketball, and while they're also building a new potential flagship program, women's basketball, and still maintaining great prominence in a sport like men's soccer?
Yeah. I mean, it's not bad to have good athletic programs outside of football.
No, it's a necessity. I'm just saying football is just the engine that drives the train. It's not the only car in the train for certain.
Lightning in a bottle for them isn't going to take huge donations from people to force the football team to be good. It's going to be, you need a half decent offensive line, you need a stud quarterback, and then you need a half decent defense that doesn't give up 40 points a game. You just need like a first round caliber quarterback that can win you games in the Big Ten. And then you need like people that can build brands. You think of, Desmond Ridder, who's playing for the Falcons now, took them to a playoff. He was a 2-star recruit out of Louisville. Sauce Gardner was a 3-star out of Detroit. And then you have to have the right coaching staff to develop them, of course. Is that at Indiana? Who knows? But
it's just going to be difficult because now you've got 14 teams that are ahead of you. I'd say there's 13 teams that are ahead of Indiana in that regard.
Northwestern's the only one that isn't.
They've got a much nicer, their facilities are extraordinarily, their practice facilities, their indoor facility, incredible. New one up on the lake, brand new facilities. So while they have problems right now,
they're downsizing that stadium.
Who cares about the stadium? They don't need the stadium to make money. They're getting the money from the Big Ten. They're going to get the money from the TV revenue now, and they're going to get 100. Once UCLA and UCSC get in here, and a new media contract comes in, it's going to probably be up to $125 million a year, where it was 50. So you're double and a half. Yeah, they don't need. Where I'm not saying it's not great to have a 100,000 seat stadium full every week, and you're making that much more money like Michigan is making and Penn State is making and Ohio State is making, those Wisconsin, those programs that just sell out these gigantic stadiums. They're making more money, but they're probably getting enough money.
Yeah, and they're also constantly creating momentum. They're signing good recruiting classes, and they have a coach that can inspire the fan base and want to sell to people. So I don't think Indiana has that right now. And especially when you have a coach that goes on the radio and talking about how he desperately needs more money to compete with people. So I don't think Indiana has that right now. And it's gonna take some changes to try to create so much momentum to put themselves at least in the middle of the pack of the Big Ten.
Does that hurt the program? Telling people that, hey, we need, this program needs this to compete, and they don't have that.
Yeah, because there's a base layer of what you can do as a coach to get out of your team that Indiana wasn't.
No, they weren't. See if we can get Keegan back in here. But yeah, it's getting tougher and tougher to compete at certain levels in certain sports. But then will that change other sports? Like, I mentioned men's soccer. The portal changed that, but I don't know that NIL has done that. Men's soccer is still a program that Indiana is continuing to be a dominant force in, without effect of NIL. The transfer portal, we saw what that did to Morehead State a few years ago when they brought an entire team from outside of the United States to play, which still grates on me. But some of these other sports, I just don't know that they're really being affected that much by NIL.
No, not the small ones. I think, baseball's probably barely being impacted unless you're playing for a school like LSU or Vanderbilt and you're a first-round pick. You're going to get little stuff from businesses that want to try to sponsor with you because you have a lot of Instagram followers, but it's nothing to the level of football. It's because people want to invest in football and basketball because that's the success that matters. Like every LSU fan would rather have a football championship than the baseball championship. So
there's that.
Where the money's going to go.
There is those that looking forward to that. We'll see how it changes and things change coming up. in the upcoming season and seasons, as this continues to morph and these conferences continue to morph, how will there be changes in other sports? Volleyball, no, probably not. The Big Ten is a dominant force in volleyball, and now you're adding UCLA and USC, so that's not going to change. That may just grow in that regard, but that's not a major money maker, as far or impacted by NIL that much. So, but can these other sports help some of the bigger sports in some way, and if so, how?
I think it's just about creating momentum. If you can create momentum in other parts of the athletic department, it's good for the school as a total. So any kind of brand and recognition or public relations that you can get, or publicity, I mean, it's a positive, but it's nothing compared to actually having success in the sport that you want to invest in. So it all starts there. So I don't think an Indiana men's soccer national championship is going to make the football team any better, if that's what you're asking.
No, I was just curious on how just curious, actually, in all regards. So what's up next for you, man?
Camp starting first week of August, and then I'm full go football. September 2nd is the opener against Eastern Kentucky. And I'm looking forward to covering the first Big 12 season. It's going to be a lot of fun. No one really knows what's going to happen in the conference, so I think that makes my job really, really interesting. Looking forward to watching Emory Jones try to get back to his usual form at Cincinnati in his final year of college football. But it's going to be fun. Scott Satterfield, I know everyone in Indiana loves him.
Well, you know what? That's still a very interesting story to me. Why did he leave Louisville?
Control the narrative. He was going to get fired after this season at Louisville, probably.
Even if he had success, what if he had success?
The moment Jeff Brom said, "Hey, I'm interested," it was that was, and that doesn't happen very often. No, not at all.
That was an odd situation because he had turned it down before, and I guess the timing, he just knew the timing was right.
Yeah, I don't know if Purdue can really.
And was this more about getting to Louisville or getting out of Purdue?
To Louisville. I mean, Purdue's not a bad job.
No, but he's in a much better position now because he's in a weak conference. So he has a much better chance of getting to the conference championship game, which B in turns gets him a better chance of getting into the college football playoffs. He was not going to get to the playoffs, I don't think, anymore at Purdue. Once things start to settle, when you get UCLA and USC in here, you've got the big four from the previous Big Ten East, whatever it's going to be called. But you had all the Wisconsin and Iowa, man. Matt Rule at Nebraska, they're going to come around at some point, you would think. They've been dormant, and I think that program is going to come back. I think that UCLA and USC coming in is going to help Nebraska grow, and I think that there's going to be growth in the Big Ten football because of that.
Yeah,
but I don't think it would have been at Purdue.
If you stay at Purdue 2 more years, there's probably a better job than Louisville that opens up at some point. If that's your logic, I think he's a home. He went home. He's coaching for the team he wanted to coach for. I mean,
I get that.
Purdue probably offered more money than Louisville was paying him. I think every report was they said blank check. What do you want? And we'll give it to you because they knew how good of a coach he was.
Absolutely. Well, we'll find out, man. Cannot thank you enough. Been fun as always. Look forward to doing it again, man. Good to see you.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, Jim.
Keegan Nickoson joining us here. We've got more coming up tomorrow. Can't wait to be back with that. Mike DeCourcy and Chronic Hoosier will be on. Looking forward. John, the producer, we're back. Thanks to RC for keeping us between the white lines. And, of course, Dustin Dopirak earlier. Until tomorrow, I'm Jim Coyle. I will see you on the radio.
Thanks for listening to Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube page for more clips and team coverage of Indiana basketball, football, and more. You can also find full episodes and tons of other content on thehoosier.com. We'll see you next time for another edition of Indiana Sports Beat Radio.